Snackablementalhealth.ca. Brandon Hahn with you. We are Karenless today. It is Easter weekend here in here on the planet. We have a guest here today. He has a resume, and I'm getting people on with very distinguished resumes. Wally Keeler. I'm going to let him explain himself because there's so much I want to say about Wally Keeler that is just stuff that is full on amazing what he's accomplished in his life. And I think he's kind of an unsung hero as far as Canadian journalism, Canadian poetry, and he's kind of a visionary as well. His name is Wally Keeler, and he's well known in circles in the Toronto area. He's a resident of Cobourg, and I'm very happy to know him. So welcome to the studio, Wally Keeler.
I'm happy to be here. Glad to be here.
Wally's got a bunch of things going on these days. We're going to try and hit on all of it. I want to talk to you. What is this visionary picnic table message? He has an amazing idea that is going to hit the streets of Toronto and the GTA over the next couple of years, and it is poetry on picnic tables. Can you explain that a bit?
Yes. The name of the project's Picnic on Poetry, and what I did last summer is I teamed up with Dave Glennie. He's a trained arborist, and he has a wonderful workshop, and he agreed to be a partner in the project. So I invested in a laser machine, and the laser machine that I selected is infinitely adjustable. We can raise the laser up so we can put like 1 foot boards underneath on the rage.
And you're etching poetry onto a picnic table with a laser.
Yes, with on the picnic table top on the boards.
That sounds excruciatingly methodical.
We've had a lot of teething problems, as they say.
Yes.
Because both of us have never done this before. And we went on Google, YouTube. Nobody else has done this before, so we have no videos to follow or instructions. And when we did go to forums, nobody had answers. So we had to simply figure it out by ourselves.
Yeah, you have to get the blueprints down because nobody has ever, has done this endeavor before. So it's kind of you're pioneering this idea to have your message of poetry strewn around the GTA and downtown Toronto park areas with people's poetry, advertising people's poetry.
Just poetry.
Awesome.
One of the things is overall that I want to bring out is poetry itself. You go to the public library, and poetry, there's books, they sit on the shelf. And they're the most orphaned, neglected books in the library because people go in there, they'll take out mysteries, autobiographies, recipe books, any kind of books except poetry. And then the other venue is you would go to poetry readings. And I've gone to poetry readings. I do poetry readings. But the audience is predominantly poets listening to other poets with just a handful of other civilians, so to speak, that are there. When we do this picnic table, we're putting poetry in the public domain. And we're putting it in where people relax, where people play, where people eat, that it's just part of their environment. So poetry has a place. This is a venue for poetry.
That's right. And we have done a few shows together locally as well. We did a Charles Bukowski tribute, and hardly anybody showed up, but it was just so fun to have that under my belt, to say that I've worked with Wally Keeler before.
Yeah, it's a few people, but that's the nature of the beast.
That's right. If you get one person, or even if you just record it, or at least it's done, right? That was. And how did we meet again? As to go off topic from the picnic table.
I don't remember. We met in Cobourg at any rate.
We were. I think I started going to poetry events in like the late aughts, maybe like 2007, 2008. I started becoming a figure in the poetry scene in Cobourg, and I met so many cool people. And I would have to say that you're one of the coolest.
Okay.
So let's get
It's a weird word to hear that because I remember
that you're cool.
Pardon?
That you're cool.
Yeah, the last time I heard that word, I was in Toronto, and Robert Priest was doing a television program, and he
Okay.
wanted me to be part of it.
Yes.
So I was off the set talking to this young person, early 20s, university student, so he's kind of ambitious and whatnot, and he hadn't heard of me, and we were sitting down. He wanted to take notes beforehand, going on air, and I just told him my normal story, normal to me, and he balked.
You out-cooled him.
And he said, I haven't met anybody so old and so cool. Oh, okay, I'm cool.
I think like that's probably one of the things I can add to my hat is that I knew you, but I kind of wish I knew you when I was in college. I think you and I would have really hit it off if we were drinking buddies in college.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the reasons that stuck out for me from you was that you were unique. Okay,
Thank you.
Distinct and unique. In other words, you were there as an individual, and you had your own distinct perceptions, and it was different from mine and different from the others.
Correct.
And I enjoy meeting or engaging with that kind of individual.
Thank you. I don't know what to even say to that.
You're an individual.
I'm unique, just like everybody else.
Yeah, but not just like everybody else. It's kind of like if you, it's all about this, but it's not all about that.
That's correct. Yes. So I also, okay, we'll get back to the picnic tables because I really want that part of your vision to get some foundation. And I want people to know that anytime they see a picnic table with etchings on it, that you were it was your brainchild. This is what you're doing. What I really want to talk about for a couple minutes is the People's Republic of Poetry.
Okay.
And how that got launched and when and how important that was. When somebody hears about that, they're like, oh my God, this guy knew what he was doing from the start. And it caused a bit of a frenzy in kind of the conceptual, I guess, intelligentsia of Canada. Actually, Canada and being able to understand the mind of a incredibly intelligent poet that got political as well as and you almost got into a lot of trouble over it. Can we kind of enhance on that a little bit with the People's Republic of Poetry? You can go on forever.
Yeah, I'm a disturber, a disruptor, a subversive. I've heard these.
But keep in mind that once they figured out you were harmless, they let you do it whatever it was they want you to do.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first shock sort of thing.
Yes.
I would say growing up.
This made all the newspapers in the 70s and 80s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that whole incident was that was an unexpected development. Like I was writing poetry like a normal poet when I was a teenager. Love poems, my sweetheart and stuff.
Yes.
And one of the poems got published in the newspaper, and all of a sudden, Dr. Alec Lucas, head of the English department at McGill University, saw the poem and thought, oh, this is interesting. So he drove down to Cobourg to meet me.
From Montreal to Cobourg.
Yeah.
To meet you and talk about poetry.
Yeah, and as he wrote in his introduction to my first book, Walking on the Greenhouse Roof, he said, and what I encountered was a hippie in his bare feet. And when I asked him, do you have any other poems? And wherefore he went into his room and came out with a whole sheaf of poems. And then he took that sheet of poems to Montreal, and him and Louis Dudek combined decided to select a number of poems for my first publication.
Wow.
So when I did that, that's normal poetry. Write poetry, print it in a page, do a manuscript, put it in a book. Poets do that all over the world. As well they should. I have nothing wrong with that. But I will say, when I went to Loyalist College,
Belleville,
and that's Loyalist College of Applied Arts and Technology, that was the most revolutionary experience in my mind. Whoever Wally Keeler was before he went into college is not the same Wally Keeler that came out. I overthrew myself in there unexpectedly by exposure to technology, particularly communications arts, which was the course that I took. And communications arts was radio, script writing, television production, photography, and video, all that sort of thing. And the one thing that wasn't included was data processing. And for some inexplicable reason, I signed up for data processing because I thought I'd like to understand computers. There's no computer in Cobourg, but there was at the college. So I got to learn about code and learn how to operate that. And all of this technology in my mind exploded concepts that were beyond just the page.
Can you tell me what year this was in that you were?
Oh, this would be in 1971, 72.
Wow.
And it culminated in an event at Loyalist College, which I called Technoerotica.
Okay.
And it was a fully automated polymedia poetry performance. And there was a machine on the stage with recorded performances, and a screen dropped down out of the ceiling with images that were coordinated with that. And this event was billed as the first safe landing of the People's Republic of Poetry. And our purpose on Earth is to prepare the people for the advent of technocracy. Well,
I love that you've got this way of playing with words.
Yeah.
That your language is your robot poetry language is so advanced.
Yeah, and this event alienated me from all my previous supporters of poetry. All of a sudden, computers and technology. What's that poetic?
That would be more than 50 years ago as well.
Yeah. And anyway, as it turned out, I was engaging various technologies. And although I wasn't associating with other poets for a few years because I alienated them, I was hanging with people called conceptual artists. These were visual artists, a whole different genre.
Even before graphic design was a thing.
Yeah. And I was hanging with them because they were playing with different concepts and ideas, and I liked that fluidity of mind to be able to play with them. And it caused me to think of different ways of poeticizing things. And one of the events, for an example, is called Birth of a Clear Vision. Birth of a Clear Vision was in July 26, 1976, and that was the opening day for the CN Tower to the public.
Wow.
And so the People's Republic of Poetry, consisting at that event, I think 16 people, and we all dressed in white, and we went to the CN Tower.
Did you wear clean suits?
We wore
just
white
like
because it's clinical, clean, very sparse. We wanted to be austere.
Did you have tinfoil hats on?
Oh, we had chrome faceless shields.
There we go.
This is chrome mylar.
Wow.
And we could put it across our face.
And what was 1976, you say?
Yeah, and it has the same substance.
The day they opened the CN Tower, this is
Yes.
what you did. Okay.
And this chrome that we put over our face, chrome mylar, you can see through it. It has the same effect as those chrome mirror glasses.
Okay.
Only it covers your whole face. And that particular concept, putting the mask on, means you can be as public as heck and private at the same time. You can go out into the public domain and perform things, and your identity is not there. So we went to the base, the grassy knoll outside the CN Tower.
Yes.
And everybody had a little chrome mat, and we got down on our knees, and we started to worship the CN Tower by chanting the word on, on, on.
The world's largest antenna is officially open.
Yeah, and then about 20 minutes after that, down came the CN Tower security staff. And,
Explain that, please.
Yeah, they put us in detention for a couple of minutes, and then the CTV news crew was coming in, filming everything, and they came over, and we have a stock response to all news media when they ask questions. Oh, what are you doing this for? We're at liberty not to say. Huh? We're at liberty not to say.
This is actual CTV news.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we do this to all media. This was our policy.
Okay.
We're at liberty not to say. wait a minute, isn't that, what do you mean you're not at liberty to say? Oh, no, I'm at liberty to say, but I'm telling you, I'm at liberty not to say. Well, how do you... Well, that way we leave it up to the news media to explain what they witnessed, rather than spoon-feeding them. And in the case of the CN Tower, they were down filming us, and the police come in, and they escort us off the property, and we were escorted. And we went back to the headquarters of the People's Republic of Poetry, had a party, and then watched ourselves on national news. And on national news, the news reporter and this group of people thought it was engineering gone wild and, blah, blah, blah. We didn't say any such thing, but they did.
You were just chanted on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they fill it in
to
with
to the largest antenna in the world.
And as long as we don't deny what they report, then that becomes the truth.
Just a little weird, but completely harmless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the platform for the next event.
Okay.
Which was...
By then, would any of these authorities know who you were? Or did you have that mask on the whole time?
We would have the mask on. And the biggest event we ever did was on Parliament Hill. We had 70 people dressed in white with chrome faceless shields, chrome placards, and the chrome placards were there to reflect sunlight down every camera lens in sight. We had gone before and scoped out Parliament Hill, so we knew where all the surveillance cameras were. And that applied to them and also to the news media that came. And on Parliament Hill, we recreated a scene out of George Orwell's book 1984 called 2 Minutes Hate. And we called this one Reverse of 2 Minutes Hate.
Okay.
So we gather on Parliament Hill.
What year was this?
1977.
77.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're still,
just after Star Wars, the first Star Wars movie dropped.
Was it?
Around then, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Keep going, though.
So anyway, we're on Parliament Hill, and in the novel 2 Minutes Hate, people are hating Emmanuel Goldstein. He was regarded as the enemy of the people. So in our context here, our enemy of the peephole was Jean-Jacques Blais. And Jean-Jacques Blais was the Solicitor General at the time. He was the boss of the RCMP and everything. So we unraveled a huge banner of Jean-Jacques Blais in Parliament Hill, and we opened the banner so that all the surveillance cameras can see it. And then we jump up and down and we hate him and throw legislation at him for 2 minutes, like in the book. Boo, hiss, and all that kind of silliness, jumping up and down.
So you made 1984 a bit of a reality.
And the irony is that the RCMP surveillance cameras are all observing and recording us hating their boss.
That's funny.
Which was an interesting irony. Now, after the...
Did you do any time for that?
No.
Oh, that's good.
And,
didn't go to the penalty box for that.
In the novel, after 2 Minutes Hate, up comes the image of Big Brother, and everybody sighs relief and goes back to work. And in our instance, after hating Jean-Jacques Blais, we opened a huge banner of Irving Layton, regarded as one of Canada's greatest poets, and he was alive at that time. When
Irving Layton.
And then we chanted, Big Brat, Big Brat, Big Brat, and called off the hate, and we went back. The Saw Art Gallery helped host us with this in Ottawa, so there was a lot of different art groups involved. And one of the peculiar things is this chrome faceless shield allows you to be public and private at the same time. There was one individual of our group participating, and after the event, she had to drive back to Toronto from Ottawa, and at 6 o'clock, she was reporting on herself on the news without anybody ever knowing or making reference to her, but only those who were privy with the mask knew that she was a participant.
Wow.
And she reporting on that for CBC or CBC TV, I forget which one of those two.
Yeah, it would have been any of them, CBC or for sure. CBC being the crown.
Yeah. And this was many of these events, I did these during the 70s. And at the end of the 1970s, it was time to publish a book with all of these events and different associated things. And this was called, the title of the book is the first interim report on the causes and manifestations of divergent think procedure concerning the first 10 years of the history of the People's Republic of Poetry.
That's the
title.
Is that abbreviated from something?
No, that's the whole title. And also the author, 422-902,
Nice.
my social insurance
a
number.
Yeah, give me
they
your
were
SIN
saying,
number.
We can't register this? We can't register under numbers.
Sure you can.
This is
That's mine.
spell it out.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you can't use a number? Yeah, you can start with 4, F-O-U-R.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Mr.
that'll make it
4. Yeah.
And it just became unwieldy for the Library of Canada.
I love how you're such a pioneer at sticking it to the man, a Canadian pioneer. You just basically, it's just like you did this completely harmless. A lot of people thought these days, I mean, post 9/11, you'd probably be blacklisted for it, I guess, but or at least they would really take the screws to you before they figured out that you were harmless.
Well, Edward Nixon, he's an impresario in Toronto. He does poetry readings and whatnot, and he introduced me as one of Canada's most dangerous poets.
That's a great title
because of the activity.
I would say that's probably the best way to explain it. But dangerous being, you've got a way with words, Wally.
And doing those things in Canada and the book and everything, there was a thing amongst conceptual artists called the Eternal Network. And the Eternal Network was involved in mail art at that time.
Okay.
So I was able to collect addresses from around the planet. And there was a thing called the Image Directory. Coach House Press put it out. These are rather esoteric things.
Okay. They're still around.
They gather. Yeah, they're antiques now. But that gave me my first entry into expanding outside of Canada. So the People's Republic of Poetry was able to get in touch with Grupo Texto Poético in Valencia, Spain, Bureau de la Poésie in Warsaw. There was another one in Yugoslavia, 2 in Poland. And at one point I decided I've got to go to Eastern Europe.
I did. I remember that story. Can you please elaborate on that? How did
Well, living in Canada and doing all the things that I did blew my mind that even though there was little bits of interference from the state in Canada, I had such incredible freedom, and I just loved it. I adored Canada, North America, all for this kind of wonderfulness.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, so
let's
I've
expand this to
during the
Eastern
70s.
Bloc countries.
Yeah, and I thought, playing here in the 70s with Big Brother and stuff, I thought, I think it's time to take on the real Big Brother. Well, who's the real Big Brother? Oh, it was Communist Europe, the totalitarian. I had contacts on the other side of the Iron Curtain. And,
this would be in Warsaw, basically, right?
Yeah, and so I thought, I want to go and play with the big ones.
That's right.
And so I went to U of T, and I learned Russian, not to speak it, but to read it and to be able to read the dissidents that they had. And also because I knew I was going to go over there, and I wanted to have some education. When I was in Toronto during the 70s, multiculturalism was really exploding. And this was beautiful because I got to meet all kinds of people, Poles and Czechs, Hungarians, Ukrainians, Lithuanians, and the Vietnamese, the Afghanis, anybody who's been affected by communism. So I hung around a lot with those people.
And, yeah, for people that are maybe not as worldly, how were these people? Were they just like us?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they were kicked out.
They were just under the thumb of an oppressive government.
Yeah, I had 3 or 4 individuals amongst that group that were elitist or well-educated or well-experienced, that sort of thing. But most of them that I wanted to meet in different groups and commissions, I went there mostly to feed from them. I didn't have so much to offer. However, I had one really cool thing. This is cool.
Yeah.
I'm a
it's all
Anglo-Saxon Protestant Canadian.
Yes.
A WASP, a Canadian. And because of our Canadian history, I could mingle with all of these people from different European nations because they all, when I would go over there, and I go to Poland, and then, oh yeah, you should have seen what the Czechs did to us 150 years ago. Each country has got a beef against another country.
Yes.
But they got no beef for Canada.
No, absolutely not.
So when I met all these people, my historical background to them is clean. So I could, Romanians and Hungarians are kind of conflictual over Transylvania and historical things. But I was able to flow between different groups, being a Canadian.
Knowing a little bit of the language of each of the countries you went to.
Yeah. And I was feeding off the language because I was making placards and posters in different languages. And I had a few exhibitions on the other side as well. For instance, I did a lot of smuggling back then. When I say smuggling, I'm smuggling literature, poetry, music.
Which would be considered contraband as well, wouldn't it? Like in that kind of, I guess, regime, it would be like that type of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of, well, it's propaganda that would be influencing the minds of the people that the government is,
Yeah, and they had different perceptions, these artists, and it wasn't a matter of me going in there, but it was a matter of me also getting stuff out from those countries through the apparatus. And it's been so many years now, I don't mind talking about certain smuggling techniques.
Yeah.
For instance, hard currency. I come to the border of these countries. I spent 3.5 months in behind the curtain.
Wow.
Floating around.
Did you have any, Wally? Did you have any police or government officials keeping an eye on you or anything like that? Yeah.
Oh, a lot. It was heavy over there. Whatever was happening here, this is like Mickey Mouse land.
That's right. It's like this. Our guys would be like, come on, Wally.
Yeah,
can
but
you
I had
tone
a
it
lot
down
of
a bit, and then they would be like, okay, you're going in jail,
and
or the
I had a lot of
gulag,
training.
the gulag, or whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. So anything I did over there, I also had to be careful of them. Being a Canadian, I have a certain amount of immunity. They can arrest me, maybe slap me around, punch me in the stomach at the worst if they arrest me,
and
throw me out of the country. Well, throw me out of the country, big deal.
But then all the people that
into freedom.
People that you met would probably have to deal with it then.
So I had to be more careful of them. Because they would pay the price of my presence. And one of them did that I know. Well, two I know did get detained and questioned. They weren't punished, nevertheless. But depending on the country, if I go in and I talk to a civilian, in Romania, nobody would talk to me. A normal Romanian, why would they want to talk to a foreigner on the street? Because they know they're going to be observed, and to say they're not going to go to jail for it, but they're going to lose 2-3 hours of their life in an interrogation room. Who was he? How did you meet him? And all that kind of stuff. So
give us the microfilm.
Yeah. So anyway, I loved going over there, and one of the smuggling techniques is hard currency. So I got some used $50 bills, American bills.
Wow.
And used because I have to roll them up. You roll them up real tight as if, for instance, if you're going to do a line of coke snorting, people roll that up. So I roll that $50 bill up, and I take a shoelace, the wide shoelace, cloth, and you can open up the weave with a little bit of pen, and then you can put that $50 bill inside your shoelace, and at both ends of the shoelace you can do that. Now I tie up the shoelace in a certain way so that the $50 is underneath the flaps.
Okay.
So I'm walking around with $200 in my feet over there.
Now, was this just to mess with them? You didn't.
That was because when you enter there, you have to declare all your
money,
and other cameras and stuff like that. And when you leave the country, your receipts and everything better balanced, so you got some problems.
Wow.
So I have to have $50 unaccounted for, or $200 as it worked out.
Kind of reminds me of a not as serious, but the movie Midnight Express.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big that put the fear of God into me about getting in trouble in another country.
Yeah. So this was a way. Once I was with one group, then I could unravel my shoelace, snip it with the scissors, and squeeze
Pull
out.
off $50.
Here's $50 for your, you guys can now be
that's
able to
a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money for them in Poland. So
Yeah.
I gave it to one group of Polish publishers, all in the underground. And the other thing was that was getting hard currency in. To get art in and art out, I learned their postal systems. And to get art out, you can put art in an envelope. Depends on the country. Now, I got a letter from Poland, and when I received it from this artist, it had the word ocensurowano stamped on it, rubber stamped on it.
What does that mean?
It means this has been censored.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So I took that envelope, and
So they opened it up and they looked at it and they.
It's okay. They rubber stamp it's out. And I thought, okay, this is cool. So I decided I'm going to make several rubber stamps identical to the Polish government rubber stamp. And I can stamp things ocensurowano. So I made 5 envelopes, and I put human rights literature in it. And I put phony
Because you
addresses.
knew they would look at it.
Yeah, and phony addresses.
That was the point.
Yeah. It was a test.
Yes.
And putting in phony addresses, and all 5 came back, address unknown, etc., but none were open. And I thought, oh, okay. So the Polish post office is just as stupid as the Canadian post office. They're just sorting through the mail and says, Yvonne, what's this doing here? This has already been censored. And it just bypasses the censor department. So I thought, okay, cool. So that lets me get stuff in. Now the thing is, how do I get the rubber stamps to my people in Poland?
Yes.
So I asked this one artist to arrange for an art gallery showing of some of my art. You need an official invitation on those countries. So I accepted the invitation, and I went out and bought 10 god-awful cheap frames, nice little things, 8.5 by 11. And each frame, I got some Scrabble letter tiles and glued it to them. I got several rubber stamps, and I would hit the thing and turn the stamp like that or grade it and frame it. And then I'd cut off the label from the rubber stamp and adhere it to the art. And here's 10 pieces of art. They're shipping to Poland. And, of course, they're going to be looked at. And, again, bureaucracy, regardless, doesn't understand art and culture. So they look at it. They don't see the subversion in it. So it gets exhibited. And the exhibition goes on for 2 weeks, and the artists take it down. But they know enough to peel off that ocensurowano rubber stamp thing and put it on their potato or whatever they want.
A potato, yeah.
And now they're rubber stamping ocensurowano, and I'm getting mail left, right, and center out of the communist
You
countries.
figured out how to get mail from a...
Yeah.
Wow.
And many of the poems, because I was working for Rampike magazine in Toronto. It's
What's
a rather
Rampike?
Eclectic cultural magazine.
Okay.
And I was their
like
East European editor.
Was it like Now Magazine is these days? Yeah.
And they were publishing the stuff from over there. So I had a conduit to get them out, put them on the page. People over, how the hell is he doing this? And I can't tell anybody because that would be the envelope they would open, and then everything would be ruined. But that was my prep work before going over there. And once I was going over there, then I taught them how to package things to smuggle out.
Wow.
And they were surprised. How the hell does a Canadian know this stuff?
Yeah, you figured out a loophole.
Yeah, and the one thing, when I was meeting with East Europeans in Toronto, the exile community, they had many ideas and suggestions on how to do it. And I asked also questions on smuggling.
All of this is not criminal.
Not on our side.
Yeah, okay.
It's criminal over there.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked them...
Because it's what? It's foreign knowledge of the way another place works, that they don't want it to be their place?
Okay.
Yeah, you
got it. And the East Europeans, gave me lots of their ideas on how to smuggle. And I enjoyed reading all of them and getting all of the information, but I had a 100% policy of not doing any of what they say. The reason being is if they know it, somebody else might know it. And the only way I wanted to do things was originally. Okay. So when I asked questions about how they did things like that, I was educating myself on what not to do.
It brings up kind of like it's an older line of thinking about being a prisoner of conscience, and those are the people that you were dealing with, that your friends there were could possibly go to jail for what's in their brains.
Yeah. They knew the
it's
risks.
all completely harmless. It's nothing to do with war or violence or anything like that. It's more about freedom of the mind, really. You know,
it is from our perspective over there. Like it or not, what I was doing was subversive over there for sure.
You were a dangerous poet,
and it was illegal. And I knew that being a Canadian offered a degree of immunity. In other words, I'm not likely to go to jail over there.
No, but they would.
Kicked out and never to go back again.
That's right.
Oh, well.
Yeah, sorry. I don't really need to go to,
Yeah. And anyway, I did get arrested in Poland for an afternoon because I was just taking pictures of the Soviet-built cultural building.
Wow.
But the post office was in the background. You can't take pictures of government offices.
I didn't know that. Okay. Wow.
So... and one of the other benefits...
And this was in the late 70s?
This was in Warsaw. This would be in the 80s. I went during the mid-80s.
Mid-80s, okay.
That was at the height of Cold War II.
Yes.
I was exhilarated all the time.
After Return of the Jedi came out.
Yeah. So it's interesting to be a Westerner and to go over there and to meet people. And they're all homogenized. One of the things I got to meet was in Hungary. I got to meet Cobourg Dembski, or as they pronounce it in there, Dembski Cobourg. He was Hungary's leading dissident underground publisher.
Wow.
And many
That's
of the
big.
Russian dissidents that I met in Manhattan and stuff before, they were all exiled, kicked out dissidents, and many of them were the children of the ruling elite. If they weren't children of the ruling elite, they'd be in the gulag, but Daddy was able to get them at least exiled and alive. Their own children. One minister exiled his own son, and that was the...
But that would be get him the hell out of here, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, he'd be in trouble. You go. And so they were a group that I met with each time that I went. They did a publication called Moscow Calling, I think, and they were a bunch of peace activists.
Yes.
At the time, and they got kicked out for their peace activity.
Where would they go? Canada?
All the ones that I met were in Manhattan.
Okay, they went to New York City. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was an interesting cultural phenomenon to go up with them. And I'm there with about 8 Ruskies, and they're half tanked on vodka. They don't get hammered.
No.
But they do vodka to get lifted. And I don't drink alcohol.
Lifted, yeah.
As a rule.
I love that. Love that term.
I do drink alcohol when I'm abroad.
When in Rome.
Yeah, because they're going to test me.
Yes.
And if I'm with a group of dissidents, there's food and vodka, and I get a little high, and they ask their questions to see if I'm real or not. And I pass the test, and so we're friends. But I knew that, and it caused me to drink something called Slivovica.
What's
Slivovica?
Slivovica?
Like acid.
Is it like Russian screech?
I don't know what that is, but whatever it is, it sounds terrible, and it is terrible. So anyway, when I was with Cobourg Dembski, this dissident, the leading underground publisher of Samizdat, I met him over there on my first trip, and after that, in the late 80s, things started to break loose over there. And in Hungary, Cobourg Dembski was one of the first people allowed to travel outside of Hungary. So he went to New York, and then he came up to Toronto to meet with me. and we had pictures taken and stuff of this sort. And he went back to Hungary, and him and his wife got their teeth kicked out of them by the police on their arrival because they were out in the West doing bad stuff.
Which is just basically
Yeah, this was reported
nothing,
in the news.
but they exposed themselves to things that were illegal there.
Yeah, and it's not formally illegal. You don't have to when you're in that state.
Yes.
But at any rate, a year later, the communist empire began to collapse. And when they had elections, lo and behold, Gabardensky became the mayor of Budapest. And he continued to be the mayor of Budapest. I think he did about 3 terms altogether. And he came back to Toronto. I went over there with my wife at the time, and she was Hungarian. I said, let's go meet the mayor. What do you mean?
Yeah.
You can't meet the mayor. I can.
Yeah.
You want to come with me? Yeah, okay. So we went into this really old building. I sat outside the office, asked the secretary, and he said, he's with somebody. It'll be about 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. I wait. And then he comes out and lets us in. Beautiful office, all like old European mahogany.
Ornate. Ornate.
Oh, very much, just like in the movies.
Yes.
And he was sitting there, and we were just getting to know each other again, asking about, how's he treating the gypsies in Budapest, because they have a lot of them there. In Eastern Europe, there's a lot.
Absolutely.
And they were starting to make demands for their particular human rights, and they were certainly without that during the communist regime. And there's hostility towards...
You brought up gypsies. I was just going to change the topic for a second. Have you heard of the band Gogol Bordello?
Yes, I have heard of that.
They're a notable gypsy band from, I forget which country, I think Romania, but I followed them after watching a movie called Wrist Cutters: A Love Story.
I never gave them any thought until I was there, and when I was there, I was encountered by them a couple of times. There was a bunch of women in a Polish park that I was just kind of walking through, and about 8 or 9 of them, and then they all came up, you,
Yeah.
and then go, Canada.
Wow.
No, Deutsch, you Deutsch. No, Canada. They said Deutsch aggressively.
Yes.
I'm white and everything. They may not even know that a country exists called Canada, because they don't get educated over there.
That's right.
Deliberately.
They know they're,
It's really a sad situation altogether. So that was my first education. And I did mix with the Romani community or the Gypsy community there and here in Canada. When I came back, lo and behold, there was
Personally, I've always thought my judgment of gypsies are people that really understand how to live. Like they know all the tricks and all the
Yeah. I had some of them, 5 of them stay in my townhouse for about a week because there was a big Romani conference, world conference happening in Toronto. So
Okay.
I hosted the King of the Gypsies of Romania.
The King of the Gypsies of Romania.
Yeah, there was 2 kings.
I want the T-shirt.
Which king?
Yeah, exactly.
So they were all staying with me, and they gave me some insights on some things, how they conducted their, I'm trying to think of another word, not scam, but they equated something. They brought up one, we sell diamonds. Any Canadian civilian is allowed to sell 2 diamonds privately in a year.
Yes.
And
It's a
he said-
Romanian bylaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm Romani, and I got some diamonds, and I want to sell them. And you would make up a big story about the diamonds. The diamonds belong to a dowager 300 years ago. And that's all the spin. And I said, but listen to a car advertisement. Are they telling the truth? No, they're inflating the wonderfulness of the ride and the breeze and stuff of that sort. So they're able to sell 2 diamonds a year, each Romani,
And
each
that's
citizen.
how they feed each other.
And they do that, and they get some good coin, and they do that with other things as well. and it looks like, they're ripping people off, but they're not. They're just utilizing the actual laws, and the thing with it is, they're not hired by any. And one last thing I wanted to think.
These stories are needed, and they're incredible. What I wanted to say was, we're going to have you back for a part 2 of this.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Would you be okay with coming back?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just on the topic.
Keep going. No, that's good. We've got time, but I want to nail you in for another interview. And we'll talk about things like AI now, as opposed to being on the forefront of AI in the early 70s.
I'm doing AI now.
I think we all are. I think we're all either worried about it, or we're doing it reluctantly, or we have to do it, or we're against it.
Myself in it.
Yeah, exactly. Chat GPT is the one everyone's using these days.
I'm using Grok now.
Grok.
I've used the Chinese one.
Wow.
I've used several of them, but I've decided I'm going to immerse into Grok.
Okay.
My total work is going to go into Grok.
On that note, AI. Wally Keeler, a pioneer of, a civilian pioneer of computers in general. You probably had a Macintosh back in the day. You didn't, or you had access to it.
Mainframes.
That was an Apple mainframe, or was an IBM?
There was no Apple then. Mainframes, corporations. Because when I finished college, from time to time I got employed, and I was employed by financial industry, banks and trust companies.
Now, which corporation would make the mainframe computer?
They would have the big mainframe for all their work.
My God.
And I was in there doing their
back
financial
in the day,
stuff.
they could never think of anything being on a microchip or anything like that.
No. It's quite evolutionary.
Okay.
Altogether.
We're definitely gonna have Wally in very shortly for episode 2, and if we don't get enough done in episode 2, we'll have Wally Keeler be an oncoming guest. I'm really interested. Wally and I have had these conversations before, but I want Snackable Mental Health listeners to hear what this man has to say. And thanks again for coming in.
You're welcome. I'd love to be here.
We'll definitely get into it again next time. And good luck with. I know you're doing etchings today.
Oh, etchings today. I'd like to have everybody go to Victoria Park this coming Friday.
We'll try and get this on the website for this Friday, April 25th
at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. at
the
Victoria Park in
of
Cobourg.
Tables.
Okay, I'm gonna have this. I'll try and get this out for then.
Okay,
for sure. Thank you again, Wally.
You're welcome.
SnackableMentalHealth.ca. Wally Keeler, an incredible visionary and a mind like none other. Thank you so much.